regular meeting this month. There we go. February 19th. We do have a quorum present. Councilman Dees is running a little late. He'll be here in just a little bit. At this time, if everybody will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and stay standing for our invocation by Pastor Chris Copeland from True Life Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Lord Jesus, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy. We thank you for this time together tonight. We ask, Lord, that you put your hand upon this meeting and let everything be done according to your perfect will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Once again, Pastor Copeland, thank you very much for having us last week. It was a great facility.
Now we can help. Thank you so much for letting us serve.
Thank you, sir. Right. This time we'll move into our work session. Item number 1 is review, discuss questions related to the budget report for January 2026. Ms. Freeland.
You hungry?
And our target percentage is 33%. And that was the revenues and total revenues are, there's a little high now come January because property tax has been in full swing being selected. So it's kind of skewing because they elected during this time frame, but I know all of them have been good. The only ones that are under are YMP. Moving on to expenditures, we have typically departmental is a little bit over the departments due to some annual purchases. And the only other department I believe that was over that 33% is fire department. And we gave them their already finished annual mentions as well. And then some building gardens. Looks like it's a little over the 33%. Other than that, overall expenditures are at 26%. Under that 33 and 38 questions.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much. I need to get one of the little pins or something. Next item is going to be presentations and discussion from P3 Works regarding public improvement districts and tax increment reinvestment zones. Mr. Peacock, you want to?
Sure, Mayor. We, staff has met with a couple of firms over the last few weeks and have selected the firm of P3 to assist us should we take on some public improvement districts or TERS districts to help spur some development in some residential and commercial properties. We'd ask that they come and provide a demonstration or give y'all an overview of just what it is they do so that we can make a determination if that's a path that we want to use to continue some development. So they are here to make a presentation to you tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mayor and Council. So my name is Jordan Sawyer. I'm the Regional Director of P3 Works. With me is Tony Carolando. He is one of my analysts here who work in this area. So P3 Works, just a bit about the company. We've been around 2017. Here, statewide leader of special assessment and TERS administration. So we really specialize in kind of finding solutions for development area. As this is no surprise to y'all, as a legislature kind of takes some of the powers out of cities' hands, we've really tried to step up and find some creative ways, open-minded ways to help plot those development pieces. So y'all have a copy here of the presentation. Both of our cards are copied in the back there. So if we ever have any questions or we can ever need help, feel free to reach out. So really what this presentation is going to be is a little bit of an overview of both PIDs and TERSs, how we see those used successfully throughout the area, and then really happy to answer any questions. and then really to connect if there is specific developments that come up. So you can go to the first slide there. So PID really are a legislative, statutorily created entity that basically is created by the city and controlled by the city. So not like a SUD, not like a MUD, not like a lot of the other special entities. Really, a PID is a line on a map. And so it exists only as a specific area that's been identified to be treated for special assessment or special assessment can be on the slide. So one of the big things we see with PIDs is allow the cities to expand infrastructure without burdening your existing taxpayers. And so PIDs really are intended to help grow and put that growth, the responsibility of that growth, the payment for that growth into those new people coming. So we really, it's been helpful for a lot of growing cities around the area in order to say, hey, we want to move this way, we want to bring in new homeowners, but we don't want to burden our existing homeowners as we go that way out. So that's really where PIDs can work really well. It's a lucrative tool to bring in developers. It allows for upfront financing. A lot of the special districts, especially in MUD or some of the other three other words, don't allow for upfront financing. Those are financed by taxes that come in once you have homeowners. A PID can allow for upfront financing, so it really helps on the negotiating side. So PID, like I said, works by keeping a defined area of corporate boundaries for ETJ of the city. I know right now, Josh, we have not a whole lot of the ETJ part, but it can be both in the ETJ and in the city. So the assessments are levied on the property. They are a flat levy. So they run with the property. They are not like a tax. They do not tie to the value of the property. So they are flat and run through the life of it. And then one of the best parts about it is they can be prepaid every time. So if a homeowner says, hey, I want to buy this property, but I don't want to pay that assessment for the next 30 years, it's kind of the typical time frame on them, they can pay them off. So those assessments are used to pay debt service on bonds or reimbursements back to developers specifically. And then again, continuing kind of the theme of PIDs are designed to support themselves, administrative expenses, and really where we step in is helping city staff and kind of coming along city staff. Those expenses can be included as part of the assessment. So it's really intended to be very neutral to the city, other than bringing in new taxpayers or incentivizing the different types of homes that you want, or for that piece, slide. So we're gonna go over this quickly again. If a PID or a specific development comes in, we'll walk really carefully through these steps. But it really is a kind of a 6-month to 18-month time frame to negotiate development all the way through the actual creation of the PID. A PID cannot be created without the landowners asking for it. So they would come and petition to say, please create this PID and this financing tool on our property. So it's a very useful tool, but it is one that is done hand in hand with the developer. And again, that's where we find it's a creative solution. It's open-minded of, hey, developer, you want to come in here and build something, or hey, we need to support this kind of development. And so we're able to offer some upfront dollars that can help offset some of those costs. And really, the biggest piece of PID, the way it's normally said, is you're levying assessments for special benefits. And so they allow for something that can be provided to that development that would not otherwise have been able to be done. So we see across the state, we represent 150, 200 of these at this point. And really what we see is that they're used best when it is something that the developer would be able to afford. So we got amenities, we got higher level of the building standards, different ways where the city is able to team up with the developer and say, this allows you developer to put in what you're wanting at your kind of price points, but it allows the city to really have a hand in what is coming. So you can that slide. So like we talked about, if there's any projects to move forward, the PID specifically, it's not something the city does alone. You have a lot of times a lot of staff that will be on it, but really we come alongside and especially assist staff and really team up with staff to help with that piece. You also would have, in case anything moves forward, you have financial advisors, administrators, underwriters, and counsels, all that would be involved. But again, typically, these are designed to be neutral to the city. So when a deal starts, most of these deals, the developer will be asked to upfront some of the costs for the city's team. Again, if you get approached by a developer and say, hey, this is a lot, hey, this is more than the city wants to take on right now, most developers, especially in this area, know that they're going to be responsible for putting up some sort of color to help the negotiation process. Move that slide. So again, I want to give you all a lot of information. I'm gonna go over this very quickly. This is a lot more text on the slide than I'm gonna try to read off. But there's different types of bids. There's bids that are what we call pay as you go, that allows as a developer starts developing, assessments are collected and reimbursed to the developer in exchange for the improvements. So the assessment dollars are used to acquire or fund infrastructure that is dedicated and owned either by the city or an entity that's authorized by the city. The developer's putting in roads, putting in water, sewer, and either giving those to the city or someone that the city authorizes in exchange for those dollars. So you can do that on a pay-as-you-go. You say, hey, I'm gonna build something, I'm gonna dedicate it to the city, I'm gonna receive some money back when I do that. You could also do it as a reimbursement bond that allows a developer to build improvements and then get money back at the end. So they put all the improvements in, they are able to sell out some debt. There's third-party markets that will actually buy this debt that are usually secured just by the dirt and those assessments. And they're able to take those dollars and to reimburse themselves. Or a very unique feature is the construction bonds, the upfront financing piece. For that one. So again, from a city perspective, as you're trying to solve some development pieces, as developments, looking for opportunities to stay open-minded and to incentivize development, PIDs really can be a great tool. Annexation is one of the primary tools we see, or primary benefits we see. Understanding that may not always be the only case. A lot of times it is also really driving those higher standard of development. So again, you get amenities, you can look for those amenities, things that you wouldn't have gotten but for the PIDs. And accelerating the construction of the city's plans, trying to really, again, come together with a developer to work through that piece. So again, as the PID comes through, and this is a lot more information as those progress, lots of things that happen within a PID. You'll see a lot of that is really under the PID administrator, that's things that we work on together. So yeah, I said again, we come alongside the city. Our goal is to really administer is what our role is, but that really also means we come together and say, how can we? So PIDs, if a PID comes and if a developer comes and says, hey, we want a PID, it's helpful to know upfront, what does that mean to the city? So really, PID debt, you have a reimbursement agreement, you sell bonds, those are secured by the special assessments. The city's general fund, the city's tax revenues, all of them are not securing the PID. And so a lot of times we will work with cities to say, hey, a developer wants to come, but we don't have general fund dollars to help with that. We don't have tax dollars. We're like, well, that's what the assessment is for. It is a separate revenue stream that allows for the supporting of this debt. There's also, like you talked about, the costs incurred in the creation of the PID is often paid by the developer through escrow, and the administration that goes on for the life of the PID is built into that assessment. So again, it's a very useful tool that is intended to be very neutral to the city budget itself. So again, as you see developers come in, if a developer comes and says, hey, I would really like to explore a PID, we're seeing a lot of developers, the way we see it phrased a lot of times with developers is it's what all of their neighbors are doing. It's what developers around the state, around the city are doing and letting other people know that this is how we're doing it. And it really allows something that they need to stay competitive with the other developments in the area. So the benefits, like I said, increase your annexation if you need it. If that's available, if it is in the ETJ, you can increase your tax base at an accelerated rate, enhance your projects, and really working together and getting the say on what's being developed. Friends of the legislature have taken some of that power away, and so that's from a city's perspective. And so that is really a spot where you're able to kind of do it as a negotiation more than just as a matter of right, as cities used to be able to do not too many years ago. It's fun. So happy to stop there. I know I'm going quickly, and again, lots of information in there, but I just want to give you all an overview and then give more time for questions. So any questions on PID specifically, and then we'll go into another tool.
Any questions? How is the fee? It's an assessment, you say. How is that distributed amongst the people in the PID?
Yeah, so typically what it's done is you're setting a flat lien assessment that's tied to, it can be done any different way, but typically what we see is like front footage. So everybody in the PID who has a 40-foot lot is paying the same assessment. Everybody in the 50-foot lot is paying the same assessment. If we have commercial property, we can break that out and treat it a separate way. But that's really where we get involved is we analyze what improvements are being built, what benefit is being received. And then the statute requires that everyone receiving the same type of benefit pay the same type of assessment.
So no matter what you put on that property, it's like the road frontage or
Yeah.
however wide the lot is or whatever.
Yeah, that's what we see typically.
Okay, and you said that it's a set amount for the life, which 30 years is typical.
Yeah.
But if somebody wanted to pay it all up front, they can do that and then they're just back to their regular.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
completely done with it.
And it goes through the tax assessor and then the city writes a check to the,
So yeah, typically, depending on if it goes through as a reimbursement structure or if we have a bonded structure, those dollars come from the county, either to the city or to a trustee, and then they're dispersed out to the developer in order to pay them back for specific costs.
and what's this covenant to foreclose?
Yes, so that's an important one. So if a assessment payer does not pay their assessment in a year, that is a typically obligation that the city would have is to foreclose on that property. But what we would say is, at this point, that has not happened. And the way the statute is written is, and the reason it hasn't happened is the way the statute is written is that you would have to foreclose for the annual installments. So if there's a 30-year PID and you have $3,000 that's being collected over the life of that PID, well, that means you have $100 that's being collected each year. If someone doesn't make that $100 payment, the city could step in and foreclose on that property to make that $100 payment. But what happens in every situation, and this has happened rarely, is that the mortgage company would come in and say, as opposed to the city foreclosing on this property and selling it at foreclosure to get those dollars, they will almost always step in and pay the $100. That or a developer will come in and say, if I pay $100, I now have access to this property. So it is a covenant it's always important that if we are to progress a specific one, we want to be very comfortable in working with the city attorney to say, hey, how does the city work into that? But it is one that we don't see extra files very often.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Perfect. So I'll go into the next section here, and I know lots of information, our cards are in the back, so feel free to reach out if anything after this, if a specific question comes up, or just generally we can help anymore. Another tool that we see used very frequently is what's called a TERS. It's a tax increment reinvestment zone. These were often called TIFs, in prior legislative sessions, or the increment financing zones. So if you've heard of TIF or TERS, it's the same thing. So just, again, created legislatively, statutorily power, a city has the control over this. So very similar, even though that slide is similar to a TERS, to a PIN, excuse me. It is a line over an area where a city is indicating that something is different happening than outside of that circle. So in this area, it's a tool that allows a city to indicate what is being done with the taxes collected. So whereas a PID is a separate assessment revenue stream, within a TERS, you're saying that we are collecting taxes from this specific area, and some of those taxes will be used for a specific purpose. The best way to think about it is, in this area, we're gonna collect, our normal $100,000 worth of tax revenues, and we're gonna take 30% of that and put it towards a specific set of projects. Or we're gonna take some of that money and say, developer, we're going to give you access to those dollars to incentivize some of those developments that we're wanting. So PINs and TERSs can be used collectively, they can be used separately, but it's another tool that we see widely used. Again, improvements can be paid over time by taking some of the newly generated tax revenues. A key feature, and we'll talk here if you go to that slide, key feature of how a TERS works is that it's really taking the growth. So it allows incentivizing growth. You think of the old carrot versus a stick. This is really a great carrot we see used a lot. It's because what you're taking here is growth revenue. So you see kind of our different colored arrows. That first year, the base value year is whenever you create the TERS, that sets your base value. Going forward, as the values in that TERS grow, what is growing is all that we're talking about is going over to be used into the TERS fund general fund. So we say, hey, we started $100,000. The developer and development has come in and put in some serious capital, has put in some serious improvements. This property is now worth $1 million. Well, that $900,000 is what that top two arrows are, and allows us to say, this growth is going to be treated differently than it may have been for the rest of the city. And then at the end, you'll see lifespan of the church, once that ends, all of that growth comes back into the city. So it's really, like we talk about kind of the carrot idea of developer or development, if you're able to make this a success, you generate lots and lots of increments, is what that kind of top part is, we call as the increment side. Generate lots and lots of increment, you can get some of that back. But at the end of that time, all of that growth is now the long-term benefit to the city. So it's again, a useful tool that we see a lot of identifying specific projects, specific things that the city wants to incentivize by using the tax dollars that it was going to collect. So if you go to that slide, again, similarly, lots of steps that we really get involved in. A lot of information you have there of kind of the different steps that go through. But the primary reason we put it up in these 8-step categories is to let you know if that were to be a solution to a development project, it would come back to the council twice. So it's not a, hey, we're good to do a TERS. It is, we specifically will be here frequently to talk through how that would work, to get y'all's advice and y'all's direction to say, where do we want to incentivize, where do we want to focus that growth? So again, that's why the kind of the 8 steps, there's a lot of times it's not a developer comes in and says, I want this, it just gets done. There's lots of discussion, lots of analysis, lots of time that we're able to really craft what's the best use of that people. So, and then a little bit quicker on the churches, they're really a little bit more as we go, we create exactly what's the best use of it, but want to kind of, that image is where we've been using a lot of the time of that infinite piece is what we're trying to curate. So again, happy to answer any questions on that. We see these across the state. I think there's over 400 of these right now. State passes.
So are they typically set for a certain amount of time?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so statutorily, I think they can go up to 45 years. We often see them about 30 years. It is where we often see those pieces. And they can be shorter than that. We have a couple that are 10, 15 years. They can be all the way up to that statutory limit, but they are set for a specific period of time. And the end goal is whatever growth has been generated in that area, when the TERS terminates, it will go back to the city. So to your point, we could end it at a specific year, but what we will often suggest and what we seem to be successful, especially thinking in that carrot mindset, is we'll often come up with it either ends at the year or when the developer hits a specific dollar milestone. And so that tells the developer, hey, you have 30 years to do this, and after 30 years, if you haven't hit your dollar milestone, you're cut off. But it also incentivizes the developer, hey, if you go gangbusters in the first 5 years, you can get that money back quicker. So it is really a useful tool of developer, we're gonna pull some dollars aside. It is taking tax dollars and putting it towards a specific use, but it's designed to incentivize more growth through that.
So if you set it for a shorter term, say you set it for a 10-year term, you're coming up on the end of the 10 years, can it be extended?
It can be extended. There are some statutory limits of what has to happen when you do the extension. And primarily it is how much of the city overall values in a TERS. So that's, we see that sometimes we'll say, hey, we want to give a short period, but if you're successful, we'll expand it. We would often say, do the opposite of make it the full length, but put in a dead stop on the dollar mark. Because that way, if the city says we want to use TERS all throughout the city, statutorily, no more than 50% of the city's value can be within a TERS. And so it is a selective is not necessarily probably the right word, but it is a focus tool, not just hey, let's create it everywhere.
Any other questions?
So we established a TIF for Joshua Station, is that correct?
Correct.
So that's something that we're very familiar with. We've gone
It was a
through.
20-year deal. Drug out 20 years. The developer lost significantly on it. He requested that we extend it. We opted not to, and so it ended in 2024. So now all of that, last year was the first year that we saw the tax revenue from that TIF.
So it wasn't, well, I don't want to say it wasn't beneficial. I mean, we had a lot of.
It was problematic of the start. The original developer passed away just a few years into it. His son and mother kind of took over the business. I think they were significantly challenged in how to do that. Nothing in that development other than that McDonald's was started that the city didn't affect. We triggered the Brookshire's build, we triggered the apartments, the Y, all of that stuff. The only thing the developer did without city's help was the streets and McDonald's. And unfortunately, they lost in the end. I mean, but his was kind of performance based. It was based on the same process, increment value. They had that thing priced way too high for this area. It just never really fulfilled. And I think it's just lack of experience is what did it. But
But from a city standpoint,
from a city standpoint, I mean, it worked out fine. We've got quite a bit of development in there now, most of it just within the last few years, other than the residential component with the apartments.
so we started this conversation based on inquiry around residential development.
PID is what we're most interested in. I think for a commercial development of significant size, the TERS might be a better option. But I think for what we mainly started the conversation for was for some residential development. The PID, I think, is what we're most interested in. We do have somebody that has approached us about doing a TERS development in it borders to, it's in Joshua Station. And we're talking about that, but we're not ready to bring anything yet. What they've asked for is significantly outrageous. So,
The first ask is always, right?
yes.
But yeah, and honestly, the breakdown of the residential or commercial, we often see the residential side, the PID really dual commercial is where we see a lot of times the TERS get involved. We have a lot more TERSs that commercial residential when there's a PID. But a lot of cities will say they don't do a whole lot of TERS on the residential side unless it's a very specific above and beyond what a PID could generate dollar-wise.
So I think one thing that we were interested in when we were talking about it before is understanding what it would actually look like. And I think when Topographic was here, they were talking about that, they would take the risk of trying to kind of putting it together so that we could see, like, if we were to bring it to you, this is the dollar amount. I mean, you gave the example that you went to buy a home and you made a decision based on that PID information to go elsewhere. Like, that's something that we would, as long as somebody has full disclosure and they're making an informed decision, then it is great. But I think I'm still kind of sitting with, like, what would it actually look like real life for an individual whenever they were faced with that, to be able to understand.
So if we get the go ahead to do an agreement with this firm, then we will start working on those. They're ready to go. I think we're ready to go and start putting this thing together and figuring out just what we would put in it. We're not going to put everything in it. I mean, I think the developer needs some skin in the game. And they know that, and we would limit it to certain utilities are not problematic here, but some are just because of the big pieces of property that some utilities don't touch. And so that's really what it's designed, is to help overcome that burden. They would still have to pay for some of it, just like they normally would, but this is just to help ease that, pay for the roads where we could get a better quality road, maybe we look at concrete construction versus asphalt that lasts much longer, and things like that, sidewalks, stuff that benefit the city by having, that's what we'd look at putting in these.
There's investment for the city to build that proposal and bring it to us
And
to.
but it's reimbursable. If the development takes off and goes, then we would be reimbursed for our costs.
Right, but if we look at it and we choke and we decide that we didn't like that, then we're out the funds for.
We could be, yes.
And what we often see too, and we can certainly talk specifically on that project, what we'll often see is what's called professional services agreement. That a lot of developers will say, hey, the city team wants to analyze this, but the city team doesn't want to take on the financial burden of your project not being right. And so a lot of times cities will take an agreement to the developer and say, we need you to front $15,000, $10,000, some amount, so that we can go hire a team to look into this, and then it's billed against that. The developers, if it moves forward, the developer can recoup those costs So it's an alternative of shifting kind of, hey, if we're serious about a development, that is some money upfront to allow the city team to analyze it. And that's really where we get involved. We help negotiate some of those transactions, we help negotiate some of those terms, and then running that analysis specifically on our projects. We're working on some of $300,000 homes and $1,600,000 homes right now. And so really, what does an assessment look like in those areas versus, like you said, who's your utility provider? What does the county do? All of those kind of weigh into it. So when you get a specific one in front, it is a lot of data, right, for the city. But I would certainly encourage you, and we can sort of sitting in agreement, sort of talk through any of that.
We've talked to this particular person, and I did make the comment to him that if we did this and we worked through this and we weren't able to come to agreement, that we would ask him to share part of that cost. And my initial discussion was 50-50, that they'd pay for half. But he initially offered to pay for all of this to have the
The
conversation.
topographic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, yeah, that's what he said. I mean,
Yeah, so they're not opposed to putting some money into it. I think he would put some upfront money into it, and that may be the way we go. We wanted to get these guys on board. I don't want to use their person. I want the city to be represented, so we will hire the person that puts this together.
just, I mean, for me, I mean, until I kind of see how it actually works. You know,
Well,
so-
and I don't want to just let them throw everything in there because I'm conscious of the financial impact, even though they know they're buying the house and they know that this is there, it's still money that's out of their pocket.
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't want to double their tax burden,
Right.
because they want to dump everything into this. So we're going to limit what can be put into play to things that are unusually expensive because there's some obstacle that we're overcoming.
And that's a really, really useful tool. That's where we've seen a lot of times, we've seen a lot of, even some of the developments that say, hey, we have one specific cost that is really high versus the problem. Collecting to utility line, connecting to electricity line, some of those costs that are, hey, these are really what's causing this development not to go forward. This is where we see it really kind of shine on that. And like you said, balancing the idea is that these would be residents of the city of Joshua, so they would come, they don't like what they're eating, they get the common deal. So that's where we always want to make sure we're working together with y'all to make sure.
Yeah, this is where they'll show up if they don't know that they've signed something that they found out later that they did. I mean,
And we'll release lots and lots of cards, because if that does happen, the intent is that's where we step in and make sure it should not be an administrative burden on the city to answer a resident who says, hey, why is this here? We have a specific customer and homeowner support line to ask specific questions about, what is my assessment? How do I pay this off? How do we go through that? We get lots and lots of calls on it every day. So we really want to kind of take that administrative burden off. So there's a lot of things that go into running the city, and that should not be one of them.
So you're saying you get a lot of calls where people did not realize that they entered into that agreement?
I would say large majority of our, hey, I want to pay this off.
Okay.
Actually, I would say probably 45% of the calls are, I want to pay mine off. And the other big portion is, hey, I'm a realtor and I'm trying to get information so I can find my home buyer. Statutorily, the home buyer would have to sign multiple notices, it's usually 3 notices, before they actually get the home. Understanding that most people are signing 100 documents when they close on the home, so they don't actually have, this is exactly what I pay. So we actually have on our website, any homeowner can type in their property ID that specifically shows you what your assessment is. So we've really tried to not only make sure they're following statutory requirements, but going above and beyond and making sure anyone at any time can access what they owe. Because again, that's a useful piece of assessment, is the ability to pay it off.
That's all my questions.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Jordan. Appreciate the presentation. Okay, we're now moving into our updates from mayor and council members and from staff members. Anybody have anything? Anything happen on type A, Shelley?
I don't remember. Yes, Nora, did Nora have her lunch?
Not yet.
Not yet. Nothing yet.
He's working on it.
She's working on it. Nora's having her, what is she calling it? Six on six with local businesses, kicking that off soon.
And also, if I can add, the EDC is also doing the bingo with all the local businesses for restaurants, drinks, and that's going, she's already had one turned in. Of course, everybody's got to the end of the month. And so everybody's been very excited about that.
IB?
We didn't have anything special. I think the main thing we talked about this month was the, so nothing special.
Did animal? They didn't meet, did they?
No, there was just the fundraiser at the Y.
How'd that fundraiser go, by the way?
Oh, over $700 for a couple hours, and it was so much fun, and the room was full. So we had a lot of people show.
It was fun when I was there.
Showed up right after you left.
You did? All right. Merle, you got any? Coda? Anything happening in your life? No, sir. Angela? All right. Any staff members have anything they want to report? No? Okay. Moving on to the public forum. We do have some people that have signed up to speak. So first off, we'll let Mr. Craig Hunley.
Mayor, council, thank you. I'm standing in tonight for Mr. Shane McNeil, who hopes to be appointed to the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. And tonight is the nomination process, and he's already been nominated by 4 entities already. I don't know if anybody else has entered the process or not, but so far he's the only name that comes up. And I gave everybody a brief bio, and just hoping for a nomination tonight.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Jake Petty.
Mayor and council, thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. I am running for county commissioner in precinct 4, which is about half of your city. I get divided toward the east side there. What I'm trying to bring is a focus on the roads and infrastructure. I think we're starting to find ways to get creative, to get out into these rural sectors and moving into a little bit of a different time in development and kind of moving out into rural sectors to support growth. And we need infrastructure out there to do that. What I try to bring is a desire to bring importance to that infrastructure. Understand that the cost, there's a lot of information out there that would suggest we don't have enough money to repair roads, but given the current budget, we'd be able to replace all roads in precinct 4 within 10 to 12 years, completely rebuilding the entire infrastructure within 10 to 12 years from today, if we go to work and start doing that. And so, not to mention that we should have, if your road hasn't been replaced in 10 to 12 years, then we've been doing some other things that may not have been as focused on infrastructure and roads. And so I think as we move into the future of Johnson County and of Joshua, we really need to kind of, from a county perspective, improve relations so that some of these developments that are coming in, we start to get creative, we can communicate throughout each phases. You're going to border up into other towns. And so these relationships with city and council are going to have to get more integral. And we need to start working more together as far as where developments are coming in, focus infrastructure in that zone, and improving relations for that. So I try to bring that new perspective and a little bit of a different idea of where I think our focus should be for the Commissioner's Court and for Precinct 4, so that we can get back to improving those infrastructures, which will ultimately improve taxable value in the rural sector. So we're trying to bring that, we're trying to go to work, make some changes, and start to focus on that infrastructure more especially. Again, as he said, TCQ's taken some power away from us, so the relations are key at this point to leverage what we can to help those impact fees get into our rural sectors, which will ultimately end in taxable assessment and value for the city. So we're going to try to move into that direction if elected, and I hope to get their support, and we'll move forward at working together and start to solve some of these problems. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. In case anybody didn't know, when we had the freeze, the big deep freeze this year, we had some issues at our animal shelter. and, it flooded. About what, 4 to 6 inches deep? Yeah, something like that. Um, we had some people step up and do some really fantastic stuff during that time. And I would like to take just a couple of minutes. Miss Alice, would you mind reading the, uh,
I do not have a copy with me.
a copy?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
Apologize. Oh, I
Knock yourself out.
copy.
Would you mind reading that for me?
Sure. Joshua Animal Services rises above the freeze to protect the animals. When Joshua Animal Service Director Tommy Miller stepped out of his driveway to care for animals one frigid morning, his car thermometer read just 1 degree. Icy roads, dangerous conditions threatened travel across the city, but the Joshua Animal Services team never hesitated. They knew the animals were counting on them. Despite the extreme cold, staff arrived at the shelter to feed their happy little residents, to refresh warm bedding, and provide comfort and reassurance that they would return soon. But when they came back just a few hours later to allow the animals a brief, cool winter break, they were met with unexpected crisis. An overhead pipe had burst, flood in the shelter. Water poured through the kennels and hallways, soaking floors, supplies, and even some of the animals themselves. There was no time to hesitate. The priority was clear: get every animal dry, safe, warm, and immediately. Wading through mid-calf deep water, staff and volunteers worked together to dry and relocate each affected animal to temporary dry areas within the facility. Outside, they shoveled through ice to locate the main water shutoff, forced open frozen doors so flood water could escape. Although the city of Joshua was officially closed due to weather conditions, Miller made one critical call to City Manager Mike Peacock, who answered without hesitation. Within minutes, Public Works was on site. What followed was a true all-hands-on-deck response with city staff working side by side to protect the shelter and the animals inside. With water shut off and extensive damage throughout the facility, Miller knew continued animal care could not safely continue on site. Drawing on experience from past hurricane deployment, including Hurricane Katrina, he immediately reached out to trusted regional partners. The response was instant. Tri-City Animal Shelter answered without hesitation, yes, get them over here. Their team prepared kennels, stocked with beds, toys, fresh water, ready to welcome Joshua's displaced animals. For each code day that followed, someone from the Joshua Animal Service team made the trip to continue caring for the animals, while the shelter's small but mighty 3-person staff focused on cleanup and repair. Joshua Animal Service credits its emergency preparedness planning for a successful response and expressed deep gratitude for the city's administration's swift action and unwavering support. Volunteers and donors also stepped up, helping replace supplies damaged beyond repair. While the winter storm brought unexpected challenges, it also revealed the very best of a community that always thinks and plans big. The animals were safe, the team stood strong, and the community showed exactly what care and compassion looks like.
It takes a special kind of person to work in that field because there's a lot of times you have to make decisions that aren't really easy to make. When you face a emergency like that, it's can be overwhelming. I know Tommy and his staff went above and beyond everything that they had to do and needed to do to make this work out for the best for those animals. And if I remember right, some of the animals that we sent to Tri-Cities got adopted out while they were down there.
They've all been placed either in homes or with other places.
Awesome. So we know that they've done a lot, and we have a certificate of appreciation. This certificate is proudly presented to Allison Timmons in sincere recognition of your extraordinary dedication and selfless service during the ice storm and subsequent flooding at the Joshua Animal Shelter. Your willingness to step forward in a time of crisis, ensuring the safety and well-being of the animals in our care, exemplifies true compassion and commitment. Your actions went above and beyond the call of duty and made a lasting impact on our shelter and our community. With deepest respect, deepest appreciation for your leadership, resilience, and heart of service. And this is signed by myself and the city manager, Mike Peacock. Allison? She could not make it. Okay, I had to pick the one who wasn't here first. So we have the same certificate for Heather. So, and I think Mr. Peacock has something to hand you as well. And we also have one for Tommy. So. We also have
We don't
one.
need any floods in here now. Right up.
We also have one for Kristen from our Public Works Department. However, your jacket didn't make it in time. So we do have the certificate, but not the jacket. So. The Public Works Department went above and beyond as well, getting roads sanded and keeping things clear and moving for everybody. And we truly, truly do appreciate it. I also want to put a special thanks out to our JSUD partners. When they were called to come and help get the water turned off, they showed up immediately. They got the water turned off and then they stuck around and helped. So JSUD stepped up and did a good thing helping the animal shelter at that time of need anyway. So thank you all very much for everything. So. All right.
Hey, one more thing before you move on. We've got a new employee that we wanted to introduce to the council.
Okay.
So we have a new building inspector, Mr. Leroy Knight. He comes with us with previous experience from the city of Fort Worth.
Did we get introduced to our new fire marshal? Did we get introduced to the new fire marshal?
Yeah, I think we did, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we did.
Was he here last month? I slept since then. Hey. Okay. Next item is our consent agenda. We have 3 items on it. Discuss, consider, possible action on approving January 15th, 2020 meeting minutes. Discuss, consider, possible action on the Johnson County Public Safety Data Sharing Agreement. And discuss, consider, possible action on a resolution authorizing the filing of an application with the Office of the Governor for Johnson County Training Equipment Grant number 5781001. Do we want to split these out and discuss these items?
Do it all together.
Okay, we'll do it all together. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as posted.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Shelley, seconded by Dakota to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Moving into the regular agenda, item number 1, discuss, consider possible action on accepting the fiscal year 2025 annual audit financial report. Ms. Freeland. Thank you.
I'm Rita Long, like Mrs. said. I'm gonna go through the audit report for this year. I believe y'all have an electronic copy in your packet. Please stop me if you have any questions. I can get down about numbers and it's really boring for everyone here. So let's try to keep this short. We're going to start tonight on page 4 of our audit report. And that's the audit report. And at the very top, under the opinion heading, that first paragraph says that we have audited the financial statements for the year ended September 30th, 2025. And then that second paragraph states that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. That's the cleaner, unmodified audit opinion that you're looking for. And this is the highest level of assurance that these offer. So that's one of the big takeaways from the insurance. Moving forward to page 7. So that is management's discussion and analysis. I always like to point this out. It's a really good review of the results of fiscal year 2025 with comparisons to fiscal year 2024. But it's in more of a narrative format. So if your eyes go crossed in a second, when we start looking at the actual financial statements, I think this is going to be a really good place for you to read through and really walk you through the financial statements and what all the numbers mean. I like to point that out. Now going to the financial statements, starting on page 18. So that is the balance sheet of our governmental funds. Across the top, we have different major funds to the city. So the general fund, which is the main operating fund. Then we have debt service, capital improvement, EDC, CDC, and then other governmental funds is some smaller funds that kind of get aggregated together. And then moving down the side, we have total assets at the end of the year of about $11.6 million. Total liabilities of about $881,000. And then total fund balance of about $10.6 million. Of that fund balance, about $3.4 million is unrestricted, so that we can fund future expenditures. That's the city's primary operating reserve. Essentially, that's your cushion for emergencies, to weather any sort of like revenue fluctuations, unexpected expenditures, or to fund future purchases without the need to take on debt. So kind of your savings account. The remaining $7 million of that fund balance is restricted for specific purposes. Primarily, that's capital improvement and economic development. So there's a little bit of constraint on what you can use that money for. For a city of your size, maintaining a healthy unassigned fund balance is super important for stability and bond ratings and long-term planning goals. And from an audit perspective, this level of reserves really shows like a strong financial management of the city. Any questions? We're just going to flip one more page. This is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances of the governmental funds. The same format as the previous page, up across the top. And moving down the side, we have total revenues of about $11 million. That was up about $800,000 from the year before. And most of that was due to property taxes. I know everyone has seen an increase in property values and property taxes revenue this year. And also your sales tax went up quite a bit from the prior year, with just new development and more people in the city. Your total expenditures for fiscal year 2025 were about $11.89 million. These are actually down by about $1 million from the year before. I know that the city is really focused on conservative spending, building up that fund balance, really looking at cost savings, and I think they've done a really good job at that we can see an increase of revenues and a decrease in expenditures without cutting any city services. Moving down to the third line from the bottom of that schedule, we have a net change in fund balances of about $748,000. So that's basically the net income of the city for the year. Of that, I really like to point out the general fund change in fund balance is about $1.3 million. So that is what we added to those reserves this year. So overall, a really good year, specifically for the general fund, but for the city as a whole. We are going to skip way forward now to page 58. That is our independent auditor's report on internal control. As part of our audit, you're required to review internal controls over financial reporting. We also look at the city's compliance with certain laws and regulations, and we also look for waste and use. And I would like to report anything that comes to our attention on those topics. And I'm very happy to report we have no material weaknesses in internal control, no significant deficiencies, no compliance findings, evidence placed to review. All in all, we're really for the city. That's good. It's a very good thing. I work with a lot of small cities and you don't always see that. So Marcy is doing an excellent job. I really have to compliment her. I've been the city's auditor for quite a while now and have seen the change, and she's wonderful to work with, has everything under control, and all in all, it was a really great audit. any questions there, we'll stop. You know, that's a lot of information to show y'all.
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment that it does sound like it was overall very positive, and I do want to recognize that, and we've said it before, this was not without a lot of stress and strain and tightening the budget and our city staff foregoing salary increases. So I hope that y'all do recognize that we did try to be mindful about what we were doing and how we were spending the money and not just taking for granted that y'all were foregoing salary increases. So I appreciate everybody's hard work.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Marcy, commend you on a very good audit report. Thank you. You've worked hard. All right. Our next item, actually our next two items, Mr. Gill is not able to be with us this evening. So if there is no objection, I would like to table these until next month's meeting. No objections? Okay, we'll just move those to next month. Item number 4, discuss, consider, and possible action on a resolution modifying and terminating the City of Joshua 457B deferred compensation plan with Nationwide. Ms. Brittany.
This is a pretty straightforward resolution. We have a plan with Nationwide and we've had a plan for some time. However, it's just not been active. So in doing some cleanup in our department, found it probably because it's quite a feat to close this account. That's why it hasn't been closed. But there, we have gone through it. There's no participants. It doesn't affect current or former employees in any way, but it does require a resolution.
Anybody have any questions for Brittany?
No, sir.
And it's not any sort of benefit that's noted in an employee handbook or
No.
anything like that.
It's looking at the benefit, we already have a current account, 470 with this is for tax made. So it's still available, it's not from this particular.
Answers all the questions. Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion to approve the action resolution.
Second.
Got a motion by Mike, seconded by Angela to terminate the deferred compensation plan with Nationwide. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Item number 5, discuss, consider, and possible action on a resolution nominating a candidate for the vacancy of the Board of Directors of the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County. I don't have anybody to nominate. I think from looking at the information we got on Mr. Schnell, he's a good.
He's a very good man.
Do you know him, Mayor?
No, I do
Shane,
not.
I know him. He's a good guy.
Okay.
Very good guy.
He's from Cleburne here. I thought he was
Lives out in the county outside of Cleveland.
from Joshua.
His wife is the bank manager at Pinnacle. Brand.
Maybe that's right.
Randy.
Is that him?
McNeil. Okay.
Everybody goes,
No.
wait.
What do you
I
have?
know
kids?
Brandy.
Right,
But
he's
he's
Randy.
good, yeah.
That's my nose.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do we want to make a nomination? Mr. McNeil?
I'll make a nomination, Mr. Mayor, that we appoint we vote Mr. Shane McNeil.
Nominate.
We nominate.
Pardon me?
Nominate.
Nominate, there you go. Thank you, yeah.
A motion by Merle. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion by Merle, seconded by Dakota to nominate Shane McNeil for the Johnson County Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, sir. All right.
Tell him your speech worked.
Yeah.
Wait.
Tell him his wife paved the way.
All right. Anybody have any questions on any of the staff reports?
That's right.
Hey, Chief? Yes. I know it's not on this staff report because it happened after the period and everything, but How's our motorcyclist that was involved in that accident?
Last report, he's in ICU, critical condition. We spoke with his wife and she said he's gonna be messed up a while. Is that really what she said, or did you clean that up? I cleaned it up. He's got a long road.
There was an accident in front of the, childcare on 174.
Yeah, I know.
Pickup truck and a motorcycle,
Okay.
and the motorcycle,
Awesome.
rider was in pretty bad shape.
Okay.
So, all right, any other questions on any of the staff reports? Okay. At this time, we are going to recess into executive session. The City Council, City of Joshua will recess into executive session. Closed meeting pursuant to the revisions of Chapter 551, Subchapter D, the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. Pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code to discuss or deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. So at 7:31, we're in recess.
Or correct me, will you?
Do it again.
As I said, I'm calling this meeting back to order. There's going to be no action on anything from the executive session. Does anybody have any future agenda item request? Okay, at 8:07 then, we're adjourned.